Hey my beautiful people, it's Courtney, and today I thought I would do a story time video. I kind of experimented with this on this channel and I wanted to ramp it up again. I want to start doing advice videos, and I've also been doing vlogs as well. So I really want to know your guys' feedback because I'm really just testing out the waters with this right now. Do you just want to see vlogs, or do you want to see vlogs mixed in with like advice videos or, sit down talking videos or story times? Today we're going to be talking about hands down probably the scariest night of my life. And to give you guys a little backstory, this happened less than a year ago when I lived at the house that I lived at before I lived here and moved to be with Andy. And at this house, it was in a relatively nice neighborhood. The only problem was I lived there by myself, which I did not like whatsoever, but I had a lot of trouble sleeping. So during this time, I would stay up till 1, 2, 3 in the morning, pretty much every night. And I just, hated having to sleep there and stay there by myself at night. So the house was not the best thing for me. I debated, getting a roommate, moving back home, all types of things, but I probably lived there for about 6 months by myself. And wasn't a fan of it at all. So that's a little backstory. I'm already a little, uneasy staying there by myself. And this had happened really, really late one night. It must have been 1 or 2 in the morning. I was getting ready to go to bed. I was watching TV, and all of a sudden I hear a huge crash, and my whole house just shakes and is vibrating. And I don't know if someone's trying to break into my garage, if a car ran into my garage. I didn't know what was happening. So ever since I've been old enough, I always have, I have my concealed weapons permit. I have a gun in my nightstand, and especially staying there by myself, I just have a gun in my nightstand. I grew up near Miami, so I was like, I need to protect myself, and that's how I've always been. I want something to protect myself, like a baseball bat's not gonna cut it if some robber comes at me with a gun, or I don't know. I'd always rather be safe than sorry. Immediately, I jump out of bed. Brody's going crazy. I jump out of bed, I grab my gun, and I never thought I would actually have to use it. I didn't want to put myself in that situation, but my hand is shaking so bad, and I'm walking around to the windows. I'm calling my mom at the same time because my mom and stepdad lived not even 10 minutes away, so in the middle of the night they could have gotten to my house fast. I was about to call 911. I don't know why I didn't call 911 first. On the phone, crying, sobbing, and looking out the windows, kind of scared to look out the windows, barely moving the blinds to see out in case someone's just staring back at me. I don't see any of the neighbors outside. The house was kind of dark, and the front door was on the side of the house, which was kind of weird. So from my front door window, I could only see my neighbor's house, and that's where I had lights, by the front door, but I had to go to the other bedroom to see out of the actual front of the house, and I'm not seeing anything. And so after I check the side and see nobody's there, I run to the front to look out the bedroom window to see the front of the house where my garage is, because it sounded like someone drove a car into my garage. It shook everything. That was the only thing I could think of that would make that much noise, was a car going into a garage door. And so I look out of the window and I don't see anything. I don't see a car. I don't see people. I don't see someone trying to break in. But all I know, it was the loudest, it shook my house. What kind of noise shakes your house? The car running into the door was the only thing I could think of. So my mom finally answers, and of course she's well asleep, and she's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I was just like, "Mom, there's this loudest noise. I think someone's trying to break in." I didn't know what was going on. I was like, my whole house shook. And immediately she's like, "Sweetheart, there was a shuttle coming back in the atmosphere from space." And I was like, "What? No. We've lived here, 6 years. I've never heard the space shuttle come back in and shake the house." I didn't want to believe her for the longest time. She stayed on the phone with me for 15 minutes trying to calm me down that it was actually a shuttle. And so turns out that we live near a space station, maybe 30 minutes away or so. So, we've watched plenty of rocket launches, shuttle launches, whatever, and you hear them, and, they're kind of loud, but you have to be watching it and kind of know what that sound is. Otherwise, it might sound like a plane taking off or something like that when we're that far away. We don't live that close where, it shakes your house every time it takes off. But apparently, when they come back in the atmosphere, I don't know the science behind it, but apparently it is extremely loud. And it's happened while we lived there, and I have never experienced it before. I guess the house that, when I lived at with my family, it was a little further away, and it never shook our house. And this house was a little closer to the space station, and it shook the entire house. And luckily my mom had seen it on the news or heard it from someone that day that there was going to be a shuttle re-entering the atmosphere. So she knew, but I had no idea. It could shake your house. I just didn't want to believe her. So the biggest thing I could maybe compare it to, besides driving a car, which is what it felt like something was crashing into my house. I mean, it doesn't just shake for no reason, and it was shaking. The windows, the walls, everything was just shattering. And I guess I could kind of compare it maybe to an earthquake, but in Florida, not really tectonic plates. We don't get earthquakes, and I've never been through an earthquake, and it felt so like my house, I guess my whole neighborhood, probably everyone's house shook, I would imagine, but it felt like my house was the only one. It sounded that loud and that much shaking that it was crazy. Kind of crazy story that follows up to that is once I moved out, the lady who moved in after me was a bit crazy. And I think she only ended up renting this house for like less than a month probably, because she thought the neighbors were terrorizing her and shaking the windows and walls. And she was a little bit of a nutcase. There was a really, really nice elderly next door neighbor. He was 90 years old. I ended up talking to the landlord, and I was like, that happened to me one night, and it was probably a shuttle, taking off or re-entering. And that's probably what she heard. Because she also said it was like in the middle of the night, the house was shaking and the neighbors are tormenting her. Anyways, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this story time, and let me know if you would like to see more, and I could definitely film some more, and I'll talk to you guys very soon. Bye!